Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktirabhavati Naishtaki. Rudraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. So we're going to read one shloka from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, titled as The Glories of Devotional Service. Text number 7. Devahuti, who is mother of Bhagavan Kapila, she approaches Bhagavan Kapila and she is inquiring from Kapila Dev about spiritual life. Devahuti's husband, Kardama Muni, has left for the sannyas, and now she also wants to progress in the spiritual life. So she is inquiring from Kapila Dev. The shloka is as follows. Devahuti vacha. Devahuti said, Nirvana nitaram bhuman asata indriya tarshanat yena sambhavyamanena prapannandham tama prabhu. Devahuti vacha nirvana nitaram bhuman asada indriya tarshanat yena sambhavyamanena prapanna andham tama prabhu. Devahuti said to Kapila Dev. Devahuti said, Nirvinna means tired of, disgusted of. Of what? Nitaram. Nirvinna nitaram bhuman. Very much tired of what? Asat indriya tarshanat. From the agitation which is caused by these material senses which are impermanent. But material senses are very powerful, indriya, and they are agitating, disturbing. Always the senses are always in the need of something. Eyes want to see something, tongue wants to eat something, ear wants to hear something. And Devahuti said this demands of various senses is so powerful that it disturbs my mind and I cannot focus on bhakti. And we can realize that when we do chanting also, our indriyas are all constantly running. It's very difficult to focus on the japa sometimes. So here Devahuti is saying, Nirvinna nitaram bhuman. Bhuman is my Lord. She's addressing Kapila Dev as, oh my Lord, my indriyas are constantly giving me trouble. Prapanna andham tama. Because of this indriya, I have fallen into this mess. Therefore, ena sambhavyamanena prapannam andham tamaha prabhu. So I'm very much sick of the disturbance which is caused by my material senses. For because of this sense disturbance, and this ignorance is causing me trouble. Srila Prabhupada ji is explaining the verse. Prabhupada ji says, here the word asad indriya tarshanat. is very significant. Asat means impermanent, temporary, and Indriya means senses. So Asat Indriya Tarshanat means that from being agitated real body has these senses. These are temporary senses. Our eyes, nose, ears, tongue, everything is temporary. But these temporary indriyas are very powerful and they are disturbing a devotee. We are evolving through the different stratuses of material bodily existence. Sometimes in a human body, sometimes an animal body. And therefore, engagement of material senses are also changing, right? So the engagement of senses depends upon what type of body you have acquired, right? Sometimes when you have a human body, the demands are different. And when there is an animal body, the demands are different. Animals like tiger or lion, they are for the eating tendency. They want to eat more and more and more, like meat. While elephant has a tendency of eating grass, while the bear has a tendency to sleep all the time, right? So all these senses are very, very powerful. And according to the indriya, according to the demands of, according to the type of body you acquired, our senses will keep on requiring different demands. So here, Devahuti is saying that these senses are very powerful, and Srila Prabhupada is explaining that we are different type of species have different sensory demands and the engagements. Prabhupada further explains, anything which changes is called temporary or asat. We should know that beyond these temporary senses, our permanent senses are there, which are now covered by material body. So we have two types of senses. One is temporary and one is permanent. The permanent senses belongs to the Atma, and the temporary senses belongs to the body. So Atma also has desire to enjoy, but that is with Paramatma. And the Sharira, body, also has a desire to enjoy, but that enjoyment is with material things. So here, Prabhupada is saying that the permanent senses being contaminated by matter are not acting properly. Devotional service, therefore, involves freeing the senses from this contamination of material desires. So the permanent senses are contaminated by material senses, and hence they are not acting. But when we do bhakti, when we do surrender to Krishna and use all the material senses for service of Krishna, then we are situated in a proper position. When the contamination is completely removed and the senses act in the purity of unalloyed Krishna consciousness, we have reached Sada Indriya or eternal sensory activities. And these eternal sensory activities are called as devotional service, whereas the temporary sensory activities are called sense gratification. So hence, it is very important that we consider engaging our senses in the devotional service. Then we are in alignment with eternal senses, which are the Sadindriya. Prabhupada further explains, unless one becomes tired of material sense gratification, there is no opportunity to hear transcendental messages from a person like Kapila. Devahuti expressed that she was tired of the material desires. So one has to get rid of these desires for sense gratification to focus on the spiritual aspects of life. And if you are really sincere about that, then one has to think about How can I get rid of, frustrate? One should be tired of, exhausted of this material sense gratification. And the devotee was tired because she had enjoyed all the material desires. When Kardama Muni was there, Kardama Muni, with his yogic power, could fulfill all the material desires of devotee. They had a wonderful palace, 9-story flying palace, and thousands of servants. Everything devotee could desire, she had it. But now she says, enough of this. I do not want anything more. Now that her husband has left the home, she wanted to get relief by hearing the instructions of Lord Kapila. So she's now serious about spiritual life, and she's saying that I had enough of this material activities in my life, and I just want to now progress towards the spiritual life. And that is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, the final stage. You do not want anything, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, na kavitam, va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani shware, bhavta bhaktir ahituki tvai. So there has to be a stage in life when one gets enough is enough. We had enough material desires. So here, some of the important themes in this verse is that Devhuti knows that these material senses are the cause of disturbance of human life. More we have material desires, they will be causing disturbance in our spiritual life. And hence, we have to get rid of these material desires. Because material sense gratification desires, they are obstruction on the path of bhakti. So one realizes that, real problem is nothing else but my desire to enjoy this material senses. So devotee is tired of that. And these temporary senses, which are the asat indriya, they are impermanent. And this asat indriya will lead to ignorance. More we engage in this asat indriya, it will lead to sufferings actually. So devotee is saying that this overindulgence in material desires is resulted in the spiritual blindness, ignorance as a abyss. So devotee is saying that enough of this. These material desires are real obstruction to my spiritual life. So she's saying, I am really tired of this. So hey, Kapila Dev, you please guide me. Now there are, as Srila Prabhupada very nicely explains in this verse, the temporary and eternal senses. So temporary senses, they engage in material sense gratification and leading to obstruction of spiritual life. And then eternal senses, the pure senses, they're activated through devotional service and Krishna consciousness. So eternal senses are permanent and they are engaged in service of Lord. So we have to engage our senses, then we are engaging our eternal senses. And then if you engage the senses in the material service, then they are temporary senses, asat. So the root cause of our distress is contamination of eternal senses by material distractions. Material distractions are a real problem. So less engagement in unnecessary materialistic things. I think that is the best part of this whole thing, is that we should avoid distractions. Devhuti is resolving now. She accepts that only spiritual guidance can relieve her from the sufferings. Only the guidance by a guru, like a spiritual master like Kapila Dev, can only help him. And the path to liberation is engaging the spiritual senses, the permanent senses, the purified senses in Krishna consciousness, in the devotional service. Spiritual growth begins with dissatisfaction with material existence. Enough of these material things, You have to get beyond these material things. And in Bhagavad-gītā also, Lord Krishna explains to Arjuna that these senses are very powerful and one has to engage. Param drishtva nivartate. One has to engage these senses in the service of Lord. The senses are in Sanskrit called as Indriya, Vishaya, Vishaya Indriya. So, Visha means poison actually. So, actually, when we are engaging senses too much into the sense gratification, we are engaging into the poisonous activities, which will lead to the death. But when we engage the same senses in the service of Krishna, the senses becomes the cause of liberation. So, turning to spiritual master like Kapila, it creates opportunities for transcendental enlightenment, and hence it is very important that we accept spiritual master and progress in the spiritual life. So, just to summarize, this verse of Bhagavatam inspires us to introspect on our attachment to impermanent material senses, and it is necessity for spiritual awakening and guidance. And the path to liberation lies in shifting from sense gratification to devotional service. So this is the key thing here. Devotee is saying that I'm just tired of this material sense gratification and I want to progress in spiritual life. So can you please help me? So that is our eternal path. Our eternal activities are to serve to Lord Krishna. So that is the. So we'll pause here and we'll continue the study of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Granthraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.